All right, we'll go ahead and open up the meeting lines here. This is your host, Susan Salkind, from Codex, and Roland is traveling, so we are going to go ahead and get started with a few quick announcements. So our future law meeting is April 4th. So I hope people can go ahead and get registered and join us for that. And we also are going to be having a number of events that week, mostly on April 3rd. There's going to be a blockchain conference and a lunchtime speaker event. So those all have separate registrations. So if anybody's interested, feel free to check us out on our website. Otherwise, let's see, we will not be meeting in this venue until April, later on in April, and so there'll be more communication about that as usual. So we'll go ahead now and get started with our speakers. We actually are going to be spotlighting some of our Codex fellows in these meetings and the interesting work that they're doing. Stephen Kane, one of our Codex fellows, has volunteered to give us a brief update on his work. So we'll consider that sort of an hors d'oeuvre or appetizer to our main meeting. And we'll go ahead and let Stephen hop on and tell us more about what he's doing.
Great. Hi, everybody. Good to be with you and really appreciate the opportunity to share what we've been working on. And I'll start by telling you all a quick minute about FairChat. So we are an online dispute resolution platform, and we work mainly with sharing economy marketplaces to resolve their disputes with digital arbitration. But they're now working with insurance companies to resolve insurance claim disputes. So out of bodily injury, slip and fall, and some property claims, using intake, case assessment, negotiation, and mediation. So, of course, our mission is to make it easy to resolve disputes, and of course, it is to increase access to justice. And this is a screenshot of our digital arbitration platform. We have an option for video hearings, audio hearings, and also a review just on the documents. Various partners use different configurations. We can handle any type of dispute under $25,000 between any type of party, business, individual, what have you. Some well-meaning folks find out their case, and you can see the arbitrator in the bottom right-hand corner. And then next to the arbitrator, this is one of my favorites because it's a general contractor who's working and sawing something as they're in their hearing. So it's kind of fun. Sometimes people are on their phones in the car, and we don't recommend it. It's dangerous, but it's kind of neat to see that happen anyhow. And then this is our mediation solution called FairChat. There's some predictive analytics built in on the suggested offers, chance of success. There's some AI built in on automated mediation messaging, etc. And then we use a mix of software and humans. And then this is part of our auto bodily injury solution for insurance claims, where people can do everything themselves. So we empower them to figure out the components of their claim, sort of like a TurboTax type tool, and then negotiate and mediate on their own, and thereby saving the 30 or 40% they might have given to an attorney, saving about a year of time that it may have taken to get their settlement through an attorney. And of course, attorneys make sense for certain types of claims, especially the more complex ones. But it's a run-of-the-mill soft tissue bodily injury claim. We've seen that this is very effective, and that people end up feeling they got a very fair result, and the numbers all support that. So. But the main focus of this presentation is on our Taking Arbitration Mainstream study. And this has been my main focus as a fellow at Codex. What we're trying to figure out is, how can we make arbitration a thing that's accepted by the general public to the point that they voluntarily opt in to arbitrate, or or what do we need to do to get people to decide that this is something they can trust, and or that this is something that they might use as an alternative to court. And some of our customers use mandatory arbitration, and there's certainly valid debating points on both sides of whether that's appropriate or not. Our view is that mandatory arbitration, and whether or not it's appropriate, totally depends on the fairness of the forum and perhaps on the dollar amount and case types. So, whereas some of the traditional arbitration companies might require a consumer to either get an attorney or go through rules that maybe aren't intuitive or show up in person, perhaps if it's digital and easy to use and the rules are clear and palatable, that's a different case. So I think it's a valid and interesting thing to discuss, but the purpose of this study is figuring out how people can volunteer to digitally arbitrate. And going into building fair claims, I didn't think we would be able to do that on a big scale. I didn't think we would get a high percentage of people to opt in and volunteer for digital arbitration, but indeed we have been able to. And so that's kind of what I want to chat about, and some of the factors at play, some of the carrots and sticks that might encourage somebody to go through mediation or digital arbitration, and really as opposed to court. So this is what the study's looking at: is sticks and needles, messaging, demographics, psychographic factors that are important in whether people volunteer for this sort of alternative dispute resolution. And this is what happens when there is no carrot or stick. If you just kind of present it to people, and we're not a household name, of course, so I think it's different as you get known. But if they get invited to work things out with us, the conversion rate's extremely low, which I don't think is shocking. But if one side, if the claimant sends a demand letter or says that there will be a court case filed, a small claims court case filed, it goes up to 30%. And so that's been really interesting for us. The first ever dispute we handled was exactly in this way, where at first the respondent did not sign up, and then the claimant filed a small claims court case, and then they said, well, I may as well do this because it's easier than going into court. And then the respondent ended up winning. So this also is intuitive, I think, and makes sense. Now, here's something that we find super interesting. There was a time
Stephen, I'm sorry to interrupt. We do have 3 other speakers. And we do have a question that came up on the chat. So if you want to allow a little time of questions, just wanted to give you a time check.
Okay. Well, I'll just make 2 super quick points. And thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Sure.
One is that when people know each other, they're much more likely to sign up. So roommate disputes is an area where we've seen good activity. And then the other is that if they're members of a marketplace or community, because we work with Home Advisor and Thumbtack and Turo, that they're more likely to sign up to be good citizens as part of that community. But yeah, happy to answer a question if there's time.
Sure, thanks. So Kirk online says, have you taken into account some of the findings related to how differently people interact online versus face-to-face? For example, are people more willing to lie in an online process?
Well, that's interesting. Our hearings are video hearings. We've seen them, and that's part of why I showed the picture, take those hearings very seriously. They get sworn in under oath. We've generally seen that they are attempting to do all of this in good faith for the most part, whether it's on text or video. But it's interesting too. Some people don't want to see the other person, and so they like online. Other people want to see the other person cringe. But if anything, we've noticed that people tend to be relatively honest in every respect, most of them.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much, and I love it that Stephen gave his email up there on his slide. So if anybody is interested in hearing further, which I hope you are, please be in touch with Stephen or look up the project. It's on our Codex website. So Stephen, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so if Jameson, our Dempsey, our residential Codex fellow, is joined, so he is happy to MC the meeting in Roland's behalf. Jameson, if you'd like to come on and introduce our next speaker.
Sure. Oh, hold on one second.
Yeah, I got.
Could you, Susan?
Very good.
Or
Yeah.
I can.
Awesome.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
There you
So,
go.
his mic.
Yeah, you
you
need
guys still
to.
hear an echo?
Yeah.
Just mute one of your mics.
Yeah, just mute. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So Susan, if you could
Unmute the Brooklyn Law School one.
Okay.
That'd be
that'd
the
be
best.
the best way to do it.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll mute your other one, Jameson. Wait, no, there we go. Okay, so. Well, all right. I guess what we will do is I will introduce our next speaker and then maybe we can bring Jameson back up. So we have Matt Goldstein, and Matt is the co-founder of Dealmaker. Dealmaker provides automated circulation, tracking, and completion assistance for closing transactions, hopefully to reduce transaction friction for lawyers and investors and companies raising capital. And Matt actually is going to be presenting remotely. So let's go ahead and bring up Matt right now.
You're unmuted now.
Yeah.
This is should be live then, I guess.
Yep. There you are. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Susan.
So if you want to, you don't have slides, so you can just go ahead and launch right into it.
Yeah, sure, will do. So what I'll present today is a demo of Dealmaker. I'll give you a little bit of the background so there's context. I was a practicing securities lawyer in New York, and then most recently up in Toronto, Ontario, and myself and some colleagues, computer scientists as well, some lawyers and some computer scientists, mapped out what our legal practice, our kind of day-to-day practice consisted of. And we found, probably like many people involved in Codex, a small slice of it was actually law. A small slice of it required, deep subject matter expertise, learning, know-how, and knowledge, primarily when giving advice or drafting. And a large part of what we were doing on a day-to-day basis was not advice, but rather execution. So on a financing transaction, you draft documents and then you spend the rest of the time on that file, making sure those documents are correctly completed by investors, chasing signatures around, making sure the funds match up with the stated investment amounts, and filing a series of forms with the SEC or the OSC if you're doing it in Ontario. And so our view is the practice of law will start to split now between advice and execution. Advice will be highly valued and require deep subject matter expertise, but execution can be done by humans, powered by machines or directly by machines themselves. And so what we built is a software that does the compliance work in a transaction, and we call it Dealmaker, and it's a collaboration between lawyers who provide advice and our combination of humans and machines that deal with compliance. So I'll share my screen, and someone can just confirm that I did it right. You guys can see. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Great. So what I'm showing you is Dealmaker, and I'll spend about 5 minutes or so going through it, and I'll keep an eye on the chat level if anybody has any questions. But really, the main point to keep in mind is we're trying to replace paper here. So we're trying to get away from the type of practice where documents go out, they go out by email, they come back filled in by hand, signed manually or not signed in many cases, and they sit up in a pile on the desk of an associate or an assistant. So this dashboard, and you can see as I'm my cursor, this dashboard is designed to replace the stacks of paper on the desk. And in any typical does that make sense? Am I going too quick? Okay.
You're great, yeah.
Okay. In any typical trend, I'm just going to make this small because it's kind of in the way. In any transaction, what you typically have is an Excel spreadsheet or a piece of paper on your desk where for each investor who's been invited to participate in the deal, you've got a line item. And so we brought that online, and we've created a digital portal where investors will be invited to the portal and complete their documents online through their phone or iPad or computer, desktop, if they like. And so this tracking table is what a lawyer or a client will see, meaning for the first time in the securities practice, clients have real-time access to the status of the transaction. They can see, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 investors who've been invited to the portal. This first one is only 9% complete, and they haven't funded. They're supposed to be in for $150,000. That's what they've indicated, but the money hasn't been sent. And so, so on and so forth. The second investor is an individual. They have funded, so we've collected $125,000, issued 125,000 securities, and I've got at my fingertips all of the information I will need to make the filings. I've got a beneficial address. In this case, there's no registration particulars. In the third line item, there are registration particulars. Like, I don't want to spend too much time going into the weeds of the securities transaction, the information that needs to be filed with the OSC. I just want to give kind of a general overview of the type of information that needs to be gathered on a transaction. And this is all, when I say this is digital, what I mean is, these are electronically completed. This is electronically signed. I'll just zoom in so you can see the electronic signature. I read the line items in the tracking table that pulled directly from the document. And so what we've done, all the compliance boxes are ticked. Whoever practices finance or securities law will recognize the type of forms. These are, you may see them titled accredited investor certificate or accredited investor representation letter. In Canada, we call it accredited investor certificate. In the US, you may call it a representation letter, right? And so risk acknowledgement forms, these are other forms that are filed. And so by bringing all of this into a digital format, we can take data, and I'm going to move this down. We can take the data and we can export it into a regulatory filing. Here, let me see if that'll. Did the doc that I exported come up on the screen, or is it showing?
Not yet.
Okay. It came up. It came up in a different window. Wow.
So it might be that you may need to share your whole desktop instead of just.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there may be an option to share your whole desktop. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
You can open the document in the browser, perhaps, as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, we see the other window now.
Okay. Good. Great.
Example of Schedule 1.
Exactly. So this is, this is information that's pulled directly off the documents that were completed in the portal with the email addresses, the date of distribution. This had to be retyped from a stack of docs that were sitting on an associate's desk, in physical format. And so there's a lot we can do once it's all in digital format, and that, companies can use, companies can use, here, try that again. Companies can use the portal to communicate with their investors digitally as well, and store all the information about the investors here. Does anyone have a kind of a question so far, or should I show a couple more screens? Carry on.
I think we're good. You can continue.
Okay. Okay. So how do we get all the information in digital format? Well, I'll show you in what Stephen was saying about having elements that are reminiscent of TurboTax apply here. I think that's a good kind of comparator. The way our software is designed is to engage users in natural language questions. So on any transaction, we've presented the details of the transaction digitally, and we simply gather information about the individuals participating by asking them questions. And so this is a dynamic flow. If you select individual, right? So I can invest in a company through a holding corp or a trust or any sort of vehicle, or I can, as Matthew Goldstein, simply buy shares. In which case, I'll have to comply with a different element of securities. So every time I'm asked a question, I'll just do it myself. It will bring me down the pathway that's applicable to the information I'm putting in. Does that make sense? Right. So if I put in an address that says that I'm in Canada, it's going to harvest information that is required for a Canadian securities filing. Let's say I'm putting in, I don't know, $25,000. I'm not going to take any fancy pathways. I'll just go through the flow quickly. Where am I registering? I'm not putting this in a 401k or an RSP account. I'm not an agent. I'm just going to deliver the securities to the same address that I used previously, so that we can move on to some of the compliance questions. So this is these are Canadian regulations, because I just went down a Canadian pathway. I probably should have gone down a US pathway for this audience. Right, and to participate in a securities offering that doesn't have a prospectus, I have to meet one of these securities criteria in Canada. In this case, it's an accredited investor criteria. Right, so what we've done is we've digitized or codified what the exemptions are in a Canadian securities offering. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be provided with an opportunity to review, and I'll digitally sign. So, going through this flow, what we're finding is investors are having a better experience engaging with the materials that are sent to them. Lawyers are having a much cleaner practice where they can focus more on advice and less on chasing the paper around, and clients are getting transparency into what's happening in their transactions in real time. So here's the information that's been outputted onto an agreement. Matthew Goldstein, $25,000 investment. I will click to sign. Here's my Canadian address, put in New York phone number. And all the boxes that need to be ticked from a compliance perspective are automatically ticked, which means I can submit these transaction documents without any deficiencies. Once I've signed electronically, the deal is done. So in our view, this is a way to help lawyers streamline their practice, focus more on providing advice and drafting documents, focus less on chasing paper and signatures around, and at the end of the day, clients are provided access to legal services that help them achieve their goals faster, better, and at a reduced cost.
Very good. So any questions for Matt?
Yeah, I mean, how many law firms are using this already? How's the traction of the platform?
Yeah. Wonderful. So we launched to the general market in the summer of 2018, and so far we have 8 law firms who are licensing the software, and a number of standalone clients who have used the software in collaboration with lawyers, where the client themselves is the licensee as opposed to the lawyer. So what we're finding is, we've provided a tool to make life easier for lawyers. Ultimately, at the end of the day, lawyers will be happy when clients are happy. And so clients have been helpful as well in helping propagate and build traction for us.
Is there a standard fee for using it? How does the business model work actually?
Yeah, so the fee is tiered on larger transactions with more investment parties. There's a higher fee, and there's a number of services as a company we offer, including some compliance services and filing services as well. And so, if there are clients who are operating at a low price point and raising only a small financing transaction, we can keep costs down for them. If they want a full white glove set of services, we can offer more services. So fees end up anywhere between $500 at the lowest price point to $10,000 if there are full suite of bells and whistles.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Matt, do you want to go ahead and type into chat your email address so that those of us who want can follow up with you?
I'll do that right now.
Okay, awesome. And then just unshare your screen for us and we can have the next presenter put their slides up. Great. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, so we figured out where Jameson's at. He's actually at Brooklyn Law School today, so we will go ahead and bring him back up and he can introduce our next speaker.
All right, can everyone see and hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
All right, I'm here in a conference room in downtown Brooklyn. So our next speaker is Kate Didek, my predecessor at Codex. She's the Director of Public Sector Innovation at Symbium. Symbium's web services mechanize legal analysis with an aim to facilitate efficient exchange of data and reduce processing times from months to weeks to days. Kate's there at SLS, so off to you, Kate.
Thank you, Jameson. So as Jameson mentioned, my name is Kate. I'm Director of Public Sector Innovation at Symbium, and I'm here with Abhijit, to my right, who's a co-founder and CTO. And it's really good to be back at Stanford, which is where our team met. So it's good to come back to the place where it all started. We're really grateful for Codex for helping us meet. So I want to start my talk by asking you to imagine I am a lucky property owner in the Bay Area, and I'm considering building an accessory dwelling unit on my property. So ADUs, or accessory dwelling units, are known by a lot of names. It can be an in-law unit, granny flat, but no matter what you call it, it's an independent living unit with a bedroom, with a sleeping area, a bathroom, and a kitchen located on the same parcel as a single family home. So right now is a great time to build an ADU. California has passed several pieces of legislation trying to encourage their construction, in part because they're seen as a key tool to combating the housing crisis. The problem is that to do just a preliminary analysis of whether I can construct an ADU on my property requires me to navigate complex zoning regulations that no person should be forced to read. Either that, or I go to my city planning department, get in line, wait for a planner to manually review and tell me what these zoning regulations mean, or I can hire someone, which will cost me some money. Then even after I figure out if I can build an ADU on my property, I have to go through a very cumbersome permitting process. And at points during the process, people applying different standards, inconsistent standards, can cause a lot of delays and additional costs to me. So we at Symbium think the key to solving this and increasing inefficiency in the planning and building of ADUs is computational law. So computational law is mechanizing legal analysis. People have been bringing up TurboTax, and I will as well, because that is the quintessential computational law application where I type in all the information about my income, and because TurboTax encapsulates state and federal tax code, it tells me immediately how much I owe or how much refund I can expect. So why aren't computational law systems ubiquitous? Because they sound like they'd be great. Generally, these are costly and time-consuming to maintain, particularly when you're trying to encapsulate complex and quickly changing regulations, such as we have in local planning departments. So our platform is well equipped to quickly build these web-based comp law-enabled applications. They encapsulate complex regulations. You can have dynamic multi-channel interactions and workflows and completely customizable UIs. And I'll stress that we can build these very quickly. So our first vertical at Symbiom is government, one of the biggest industries, and in particular in planning departments. Most of our interactions with government at least touches planning to some extent. And planning departments are really trying to manage urban growth and trying to do so with tools that increase their efficiency and make it easier. So with that, I will let Abhijit take the wheels here, and I will talk through the demo. So this is our ADU service that we've configured for the city of LA. And it's to help users, whether they be city planners, homeowners, or design professionals, quickly figure out three things. One, can I build an ADU in some form on my property? Two, what form can that ADU take? How big can it be? What's the max height, etc.? And then it answers the third question, how do I get this done? What's the process? So to start, the user just needs to enter the location, either an address or parcel number, or click on the map below. And after they confirm that this is indeed the location that I'm interested in building an ADU in, it takes us to this analysis page. So you see on the left, I have my parcel, and on the right, I have my analysis. I have three tabs. The first one, zoning, answers my first question. Am I able to build an ADU on my property in some form or another? The second tab, development standards, provide the site-specific regulations about how the maximum height of my building, how far it needs to be set back from my property lines, etc. And the third tab answers my third question. What process ensues? How do I actually get this done? So I'll go through this quickly. We're on the zoning information tab. It tells me what zoning district I'm in, R1. It tells me that in my district, an ADU is allowed. The tool also asks me if there's an existing or proposed single-family home on my property. If I click no, the tool immediately tells me, sorry, you're not allowed to build an ADU there under state law. And the parcel map changes red to reflect that. So let's click yes. And then we'll go to the next step and we'll learn a bit about what kind of ADU is permitted. So the tool asks me what type of ADU I want to build. There's three main types. It can be attached to my primary dwelling unit. It can be a separate detached structure, or it could just be built within an existing structure, like a garage conversion or a basement or attic conversion. So I'll click attached, and then you'll see in the middle of the screen the development standards, which are site specific. And on the right is a bunch of configurable parameters, and how you answer those questions or change those metrics may impact your development standards. So I just want to go through a couple of these. I won't take you too deep into the weeds. So let's look at maximum new square footage of my ADU. So this is limited by three separate parameters. One, an ADU cannot exceed 1,200 square feet. Two, it cannot exceed 50% of my primary residence's size. And number three, I'm governed by my R1 zoning district's floor area ratio regulations, which here say I can have no more than about 4,026 square feet of building square footage on my lot. So right now, it tells me the maximum square footage of my ADU is 1,200 square feet. But if I change the size of my primary residence, if I decrease that, then my maximum new square footage changes. That's because at this point, I'm limited by the regulation that says my ADU cannot exceed 50% of my primary residence's size. You see, if I start increasing the size of my ADU, my primary residence, my ADU goes back up to 1,200 square feet. And then if you take it even farther, it starts decreasing. And at that point, my zoning district's floor area ratio regulations dictate the maximum size of my new ADU. I'll also speak just briefly about setbacks. Now, these are the regulations that tell you how close to the property line your building can be located. Here, it says I need to be set back 20 feet from my front property line, 5 feet from my side property line, and 15 feet from the rear. So that's great, but we take that a step further, and we enable users to visualize what that actually means on their parcel. So here, the green square in the middle of my parcel is the area in which you can construct your ADU in compliance with those setback regulations I just talked about. We also go one step further than that and enable users to sketch out their proposed ADU footprint on their parcel, and they can move it around, and at each point they're told if they're complying with the setback regulations. Here it's too close to the side lot line, and here it's yellow. The ADU turns yellow to warn us that we said we were going to build an attached ADU, but right now it is detached from the primary residence, so we get that nice warning. We also provide information about parking. Here, one is not required because the tool is calculated that we're located within a half a mile of a public transit stop, which you can see on the map if you're interested in figuring that out, where the closest transit stop to you is. So with that, I'll just briefly touch on the process tab. We provide a lot of additional information, including easy to understand explanations of the required process for getting your ADU constructed. So that is the basic demo. Do you want to just go back to the slide real quick? So we have a couple asks from our Codex community. We are looking for users to test this tool and help us improve it. That could be homeowners, architects, real estate professionals, planners. We're also in a position where we're going to be looking to make hires down the road, and we have a need for developers and subject matter experts like myself, which I'll call zone nerds. So we're a rare breed. If you know any, please connect us to them. And we're also interested in connecting with government sales superstars. Government sales can be challenging. So if there's some superstar in that area that you would love to connect us with, love to pick their brains. With that, I'm happy to take any questions. My contact information and Abhijit's contact information is on the screen. Please contact us, be in touch, and thank you.
Kate, this is Mike Schmitz. This is can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it's a really cool application. Having been in the weeds in local government and economic development for a long time, it's really helpful what you're offering.
Thank you.
Question about business model, and I guess even the question of like who you're going to be selling to. I could see for sure local governments can use a lot of leveling in terms of their software applications, but I'm also thinking of homeowners, developers, everything else, and the question of like whether you're going to be selling to government agencies primarily, procurement process, or whether you're going to go and look to scale, and then also the question about how you look to scale across different jurisdictions where it's close but not the same thing in terms of the zone, in terms of all the regulations. Because I think this is really powerful, potentially game-changing software.
Thank you. Well, so we are interested in partnering with local planning departments, and we're in conversations with a variety of them. We also want to directly connect with homeowners, and we'll be launching our portal, which will be openly accessible and usable to homeowners. I think within a month. Yeah. And we also want to, connect with real estate developers, people. So we see like a variety of different potential users and people to partner with. In terms of our business plan and how we hope to make money, fortunately, the lightweight nature of our software allows us to be experimental at this time. But what we're hoping to do is eventually get to a pay-per-use model where we want to connect this with our smart permitting capabilities. And then just like Visa charges you like a small percentage of whatever you're buying, a little like 2.5% fee. We want to take this, like charge a fee once you submit your permit application, just off the permitting fees.
Fantastic, exciting. I'm wondering if I'm seeing a connecting of even Google Maps with Quicken in some ways, and if that is or not the case, could you connect with Google Maps further, and even their broader ecosystem with languages, but also government context, sort of as let Google's existing infrastructure be a way to interface with governments. Are you in the Google ecosystem, and is that a potential set of growth areas for you IT-wise?
So could you elaborate a little bit more on the Google ecosystem? Like right now, if the question is more related towards the data side of things, like are we amenable to expanding our data hemisphere? Absolutely. I don't know specifically regarding Google what data source you are imagining.
Well, I'm seeing those maps, and I'm seeing the ability to engage them. Is that Google, and could you engage it further?
So right now we are not using Google. Okay. But if there are relevant data sources from Google, we'll be happy to use them. Yeah. But we are flexible in that regard regarding what data sources we can assume.
What maps were those, if I might ask?
It's OpenStreetMaps.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks.
Oh, and I think I neglected to respond to the part of Mike's question in terms of how we scale to new cities. Fortunately, our platform makes it very quick and easy to translate zoning regulations into source code, much like you'd fill out an Excel spreadsheet. So it takes anywhere from like a couple days to a couple weeks to build it out. And the couple weeks is for the larger cities with more complex and longer zoning codes.
Think San Francisco.
San Francisco, LA, that type of thing. But for like a small municipality, matter of days.
Okay. All right, well, great. Another round of applause for Symbian. Okay. Let's see. Jameson, are you still there? Maybe, maybe not. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce Puneet because we're fortunate to have him right here in the room here at Stanford Law School. So here's Puneet to tell us more about FairChat.
Thanks, Susan. Hi, everyone. My name is Puneet. I'm CEO and co-founder of FairChat. We're also based out of Toronto, Canada. So imagine yourself getting a divorce. It's kind of a grim thing to imagine, but you have 10 years of text messages with your spouse, and it was a nasty, abusive situation. How do you get all of that data to your lawyer? And then how does your lawyer review it and analyze it in a cheap and efficient manner? Believe it or not, today, 90% of litigation files require some kind of mobile-based evidence. And that could be social media, different chat, or text messages. How do they do it right now? Well, a lot of smaller law firms rely exclusively on screenshots. Screenshots aren't searchable, and of course, they can easily be faked. You can actually generate a fake screenshot in under 30 seconds at faketextmessage.com. This is a problem I faced with almost every single client when I was practicing law. And I looked for a solution that kind of suited, lawyers' needs, and I couldn't find anything. And so we set out to build FairChat. So this, folder on the left side that you see, that's what a lot of lawyers at smaller law firms use. It's a desktop folder filled with screenshots of text messages that their clients send them. Which one of those screenshots came first? It's really hard to tell. The only other solution available is third-party forensic collectors. And that's basically a client giving up their mobile device for, about a week. It's plugged into a big machine, and $2,500 to $10,000 later, you get a massive Excel spreadsheet of all your text messages. That's not, really efficient either. So what we do is we've built an app and a platform for the lawyer. The lawyer can sign on to this platform, enter their client's information to create a new file, send an invite to their client that, requesting the text messages be uploaded from a particular contact, maybe a spouse. The custodian then uses our app to select which message platform they want to upload. Then they select the contact and the message thread and hit send. All of that data, along with the associated metadata, gets uploaded to our secure platform where the attorney can then review, make redactions, and then export it in a deposition style transcript that judges prefer reading. If you do happen to do a forensic collection of text messages, let's say in the criminal space, and you get one of those massive Excel outputs, we can also ingest that directly into our platform as well. So regardless of how you get the data, FairChat can be used to search through it, analyze it, and export it. We also built an NLP and relational meaning search to assist in the review process. So, if you search for the word attorney, but your client never used that word in their conversation, similar words like legal or law or mention of a court will show up in the search result. We also have another great feature that we call Site Archive, and it's still in beta right now. But this allows you to archive any public-facing websites. And of course, we grab the metadata and date stamp it so it can be used in litigation later on. So if opposing client happens to delete their defamatory blog about you, you'll have an authenticated copy you can use in court. And our pricing is very simple and affordable for any size of law firm. $50 per case per month that it rests on our servers. A smaller file you might just have for 30 days. That's a $50 disbursement for any attorney. A bigger file you might have longer. And of course, we have enterprise pricing as well, sort of all you can eat for larger law firms. And we do have a couple of Toronto-based large law firms on the all you can eat platform right now. Here are some testimonials from some of our clients. These are two of the largest law firms in Canada, and they're also some of our first customers. They really helped us, drive and design the product, and as well as find bugs. We have 82 different law firms in North America using FairChat that are paying for FairChat right now. 80% of those are actually in the United States. And that's it for the demo, or sorry, the presentation. But I can give you guys a live demo of how our, oops. Sorry. Okay, maybe we'll skip the live demo.
Can they go to your website and see a live demo?
Yeah, actually, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is FairChat, and we have live demos of the actual collection process and the review process, so you can check it out there.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right, so any questions for Puneet?
So typically when you analyze text messages versus normal regular conversation, text messages tend to be very brief, and I never write proper English or something in text messages. So have you faced any challenges regarding that, as opposed traditional NLP techniques are at best flaky on regular language? So in a chat setting, I'm how good have you seen your?
Yeah, so that was definitely a challenge. So we use Facebook's deep text platform, which is built direct, for SMS messaging or short messages. So that kind of helped us out quite a bit.
So I guess like your text file could be really large. And when an attorney is doing redaction, I guess it's all manual, or is there an automatic process to redact?
Great question. Right now it's manual, but we are working on an automated process. So like a keyword redaction.
Okay.
But right now it's how the redactions work is you simply highlight the text you want to redact and hit the redact button.
So I have a question. This is pretty kind of focused very much on a very simple kind of use case, and it makes a lot of sense. But can you build a whole business around this specific product, or are you looking into adjacent kind of opportunities too? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, we definitely think we could build a business around it. Pretty much any family lawyer you talk to is dealing with this issue. And so 85% of lawyers in the United States are work for under 5 lawyer firms. So it's awesome to build solutions for Dentons and all the big players, but that's a really small portion of the legal industry. What tech or legal tech ignores is that that fresh grad who couldn't get a job and then throws out their own shingle. Well, now they can sort of compete, or their boutique firm can compete with, some of the larger firms by, using technology to improve their processes. And instead of spending 12 hours mining, printed out text messages, they can do it very quickly. So I think definitely the market is there. Those 82 firms on our platform, we got all of those clients with 950 emails I sent out in the month of August. So that's over an 8% conversion rate of cold emails, also known as spam. So I think that kind of traction just shows us that, there's a huge demand and a burning issue where smaller firms are ignored. Having said that, we have been approached by enterprise who have a similar issue. Their employees start using different types of communication methods. And they're either a regulated industry or they just, want to be prepared if, they're chatting with a client of theirs and say something they're not supposed to. And they've approached us. And actually right now we are working with a securities regulator in Canada, as well as one of the largest police forces in Canada as well, and reviewing our platform right now. And that's the bigger market.
Interesting.
And that would be for what kind of application? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So the people who approached us, I'll just tell you, the problems they were having. We were approached by one of the largest banks in Canada, simply because they replaced their old school intranet with Facebook Workplace. And their development team worldwide started using Slack, and they didn't know how to remain compliant with their archiving obligations. So they approached us. We're too small to handle a bank that size right now, but it gave us some great insight in some of the larger problems that exist with new types of communication. The securities body, they have people selling financial instruments or whether it's insurance or investments to clients, and they take it offline. They start chatting on WhatsApp or sending direct text messages, and it's hard to archive those. So when the regulatory body comes knocking, they need to be able to produce that, and they don't know how, and screenshots just aren't sufficient. The police force, they use the big forensic tools, but they're stuck with the massive Excel file output, and that's actually taxpayer money being spent on somebody reviewing something, semi-manually when there's a more efficient way to do it. When they've processed that evidence, they send it off into legal aid on the other side, which is also taxpayer funded. And our conversations with legal aid where, it takes 2 to 3 days to review a criminal defendant's text message history if you're given it by police. We can change that into hours instead of days. So those are the use cases there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
An obvious place to go with this would be Clio, right? For integration with, yeah.
Yep, we integrate with Clio, and a large part of our customer base are also Clio clients.
Awesome. Okay. Scott, did you have a question?
Is there an opportunity to further consider this as a natural language processing question and build out in parallel or forking ways as avenue ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. The major challenge we have with that, however, is our team consists of 2 people right now. Mm-hmm. So I mean, as a lot of startups face, but that's definitely something we'd like to kind of investigate. The other issue is, we are getting people's data, so we'd have to anonymize it and make sure they're okay with it. And so I think once we're a little more established, we'd like to explore those avenues.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and thank Puneet and wish everybody a great spring break, and hope to see everybody next month at Future Law. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.